Hello everyone, and welcome to the UBS webinar for R2 Hero. And today we're talking about advanced dataset features. Just as a recap, R2 Hero is an advanced data analytics module. It can source and merge data from multiple data sources, which means multiple databases, multiple systems. It's really intuitive to use, has dashboards, you can customize reports, you can create data visualizations, and it also has APIs for exporting information to other systems. It's really simple to use and has drill downs that really help to dive deeper into your data. And you can also build reports and schedule them to be delivered to people throughout your organization. And it really doesn't consume IT resources or R2 resources. We did have a R2 webinar about this about a month ago. That was the introduction webinar. That webinar is available on our YouTube channel. Today we're going to be focusing on some of the advanced dataset features. We are going to look at merging data from multiple datasets together. We're going to look at advanced calculations, and then we'll also take a look at scripting or writing scripts to do even more advanced calculations using your data in the system to give you the results that you need. To demonstrate these capabilities, we're going to build a dataset. Our dataset is going to be a dataset for profit and for profit margin. Now, I've just put an Excel sheet together here to demonstrate what our end goal is going to be. So our end goal is to have by order with information for project, customer, and salesperson, project manager as well, to have our equipment, the profit, and the margin, same for labor, freight, miscellaneous, etc., with a total at the end. Of course, in order to be able to come up with these figures for equipment profit and equipment margin, we need to have the revenue and the cost. So let's unhide some of the columns here. So each one of these sets for profit and for margin, we also need to have the revenue and the cost. So we'll build a data set that has all of this information, and then some of these fields will be calculated and some of them will just come from the data set itself. So let's get into R2 Hero and let's get started. So R2 Hero is just opened on a dashboard that I built for sales projections. As mentioned, we're going to use a data set for the demo today of merging data and calculations and scripting. We're going to use a data set that I've already started. It is a profit margin data set. And as you can see, that data set already has a lot of the information that we have. It has the order, it has the contract description or the order description, the company, ship date, a lot of the revenue information, or at least it has the revenue and cost. It doesn't have the project, the salesperson, and the project manager. So we'll bring those in from another data set. That is merging data sets together. Of course, we'll get into our edit mode. And the first thing that we'll do is actually bring in those additional fields so that we have all of the fields that we need on the data set. So here there are lots of different things that can be edited on a data set. We'll definitely get into more and more of them as we do more webinars. Today we're focusing on merging calculations and scripting. So let's go down to our flow steps. And our flow steps do have quite a bit of different functions that we can do on a data set, calculated fields. So obviously we're going to be using that today. Concatenating, straightforward, putting fields, text fields together, and then fields from another data set is what we're going to use right now. And that will allow us to connect two data sets together. So when we click on that, it first asks us which data set we want to merge with the data set that we're using right now. So I have another data set that has the project, the salesperson, and the project manager field on them. It is called my forecast summary. And then the next step is, how do we want to link them? What common denominator do we have between the two data sets? So in this case, or in many cases, it's going to be the order ID. So I'll use the order ID from the forecast summary, and then here we also have the order ID in the existing data set. And then if there are more values, it does ask us how we would like that handled. In this case, it should be 1 to 1. So we're just going to use the first value. And then here we get to choose which fields. So when we click on this, it'll actually give us a list of all of the different fields that we need. So we know that we need the project. So use the search project. So here's the project description. But we also need the project manager. So I'll go ahead and add that as well. And then we also need the salesperson. So we'll pick the salesperson and done. So now we're using the order ID as the common denominator, and we're adding the 3 different fields: project description, project manager, and salesperson. We'll say done. And then we see that our fields have been added to the end of our data set. Of course, that's not where we want them, so we can just go ahead and drag them over to where we want them. Project manager and salesperson. All right. So using the flow steps, it's pretty easy to add fields from a different data set, as we've seen. But you can also add fields from a different data source. So that is one of the other flow steps that's available. So this would actually allow you to add fields from a completely different system that is connected to R2 Hero. Of course, you could also create data sets from a different system and then connect the data sets together, or if you just wanted to draw information directly from another data set, that is one of the other options that's available. Next, we're going to start to look at our revenue fields. So we have our equipment revenue and we have our equipment cost. So in order for us to be able to have a profit and have a profit margin, we do need to start to add some calculated fields. So profit is simply going to be the revenue minus the cost. It's straightforward math. Margin is also a pretty straightforward math, but it does get a little bit more complicated because when you do have zeros, you can't divide by 0, and of course the system would return an error. So for that, we're going to use some scripting. But first, let's focus on just some straightforward math. So we want to add another field here for equipment profit, and we're going to do that with a flow step. So go here, add a field, and add a calculated field. So we're going to call this one equipment profit. Here within a calculated field, we can use whatever math we want to use. I mean, it could be something as simple as 1 plus 1 if you really wanted to do that. I'm sure it will tell you that it's 2. But of course, our goal here is really to use fields. So here we do have the different fields that are available to us. The icons do indicate the type of field, if it's numeric or if it's text or if it's a date. And in this case, we do want to use our equipment cost and our equipment revenue. Our profit, as we said, is going to be our revenue minus the cost. So we'll simply pick our equipment revenue, use the subtraction sign, and then add the other field, which is the equipment cost. And that should give us the equipment profit. Once again, that field is now a calculated field added at the end. So let's go ahead and just drag that over to where we want it. And of course, now we have to repeat the same for labor, for freight, and for miscellaneous charges. Let's do the same and reorder the columns so that the fields appear in the correct locations. And we'll click on Save just to be on the safe side. Here in this view, we're not seeing the additional fields because we need to run the data set one more time. So go ahead and run that. Depending on the size of the data set and the information, it may run very quickly and it may take a little while for the data set to complete. So now after we've run it, now we see that we have our equipment revenue, our equipment cost, and our profit. So our next step in order to be able to complete our data set is to add one more field for each category here for the margin. Then of course we're also going to do the same for our order revenue. So we have the order revenue, and we also want to see our order margin. So those will be some more fields that we'll add on. So to do that, we'll go back into our edit mode. And this time we're going to add fields, again, calculated fields, but because those fields may have some math in them that doesn't resolve, we're going to use some scripts. So those scripts are advanced scripts, and in this case I'm going to use a PowerScript. So adding this PowerScript, we'll go ahead and call it equip margin. That'll be the name of the field. And then of course we need to write the script. Now, I'm not a programmer myself, and I do use AI to write scripts today. So R2Hero does have AI that can be used to write scripts, and I did write just this plain English, write a script that calculates profit margin for equipment, where equipment profit is the field equip profit, so we're defining which field. Equipment revenue, again, we're defining which field, and the calculation should take into consideration that the values may be 0, and you can't divide by 0. And I also asked it to convert that script to actually display the result in a percentage. And the script that I got back in return is here. So it's defining a variable using if equipment revenue is 0, which is what we divide by, then it's going to return not applicable. And if not, then it's going to just calculate the revenue and then fix to 2 decimals and use the percentage sign. And once that's done, our equipment margin field has now been added. So now we have our equipment revenue, equipment cost that we use to calculate the equipment profit and the equipment margin. With that, we'd be able to go ahead and complete the same calculations for the rest of our data set. I'm going to go ahead and calculate this. Copy this, and then go ahead and add just one more. So add a PowerScript. This one will be the labor margin. Just paste here. So now that I have the script, I do just need to replace the fields with the correct names. So this is the equipment revenue. I'm going to replace that with labor revenue. And then here, where it's equipment profit, replace that with labor profit. And one more time, this one, replace it with labor revenue. And of course, we want this name now to be the variable to be for labor. Same down here. Same everywhere, actually. And our field name, of course, is labor margin, and we want the record to reflect that name. In order for that field to show up, we do need to run. And again, once complete, that field will show up at the end, and we can take it, drag it over to where we want it. I still need to complete the same for the freight margin and for the miscellaneous margin. And then we'll be able to do the same for the order margin. I'll now put on my Flash Gordon suit. I've also gone ahead and added the additional fields for order revenue, order profit, and order margin. Same thing. Those are some of our calculated fields. So order profit is a simple mathematical field. It's just an addition field to add equipment, labor, freight, and miscellaneous profit together. And then the order margin is that same script that we've been using to calculate the percentage. So now we have completed our entire report, our entire data set, and we can use it for any other report that we want to. Some other things we can do is, we can go through and change some of the field names so that they're more understandable, more clear. And if we wanted to, we could also hide some fields. So if we don't need the freight cost and the freight revenue, we just want the profit margin and the profit and the margin, these fields we can actually unselect. And they'll come off of our view. And when we're done, obviously we're going to save that. Run it one more time. And our data set is complete. So today we were able to merge data sets together by adding fields from one data set to another. We did see simple calculated fields, simple math, and then we saw scripting. And with scripting, I did use AI that's in Hero. If you don't have AI on Hero, you can use any AI engine to generate those scripts. I should also mention that scripts can also be written in other languages. So if you want to write SQL, you can do that as well.